I'm Kurt Nolte with the University of Arizona, and the topic of today is understanding microbial risks associated with the method of irrigation used to grow a crop. There are several different ways to irrigate crops, as you know, and we'll review some of these as it relates to microbial contamination risk in the field. Under certain circumstances, irrigation water used for fruit and vegetables could be a potential contamination source and lead to human illnesses. And while systems vary for every field application, there are many things to consider before deciding which system is best for your production system. These systems can depend on the crop type, cost, of course, labor requirements, size and shape of fields, field slope, and of course, water source. One irrigation option to consider are sprinklers. Overhead sprinklers are a common method of irrigation. Here, water is piped to one or more central locations within the field and distributed by overhead high-pressure sprinklers or guns. Another option is flood or furrow irrigation. Flood irrigation is a proven method for irrigating crops. Viewed broadly, water is delivered to the field by ditch, pipe, siphon tube, or some other application mechanism, and flows by gravity to the crop via furrow or basin. The last commonly used irrigation practice is drip irrigation. This method has many benefits. It can decrease water use by not wetting the entire field and reduce weed growth, since these non-wetted areas of the field will not promote significant plant growth. It's very important to regularly test your irrigation water for microbial contaminants. And producers of fresh and minimally processed fruits and vegetables should complete a risk assessment to determine potential hazards associated with their irrigation water sources and practices. They then can implement strategies to minimize the risk of microbial contamination. In the absence of a current federal irrigation water standard, the adoption of the EPA Recreational Water Quality Standard is commonly used in most states. In general, if the water can be used to swim in, it's a suitable irrigation source. Testing frequency, of course, depends on the water source. The USDA Good Handling and Agricultural Practices Program recommends that if water is derived from a municipal source, testing is only needed one time per year. However, if irrigation water is derived from a well, testing one time per year, but during production is required. And finally, if surface water is used, it's recommended to evaluate the water quality 3 times per year, once before it's used, once at peak use, and finally once close to harvest time. Differences in microbial risk are directly associated with the type of irrigation system used to grow the crop. Irrigation practices that expose the edible portion of the produce to direct contact with contaminated water may increase microbial food safety risks. It's important to remember that in furrow and drip irrigation, microbial contamination risk is minimized, since the water typically does not come in direct contact with the crop. The concern when using a sprinkler irrigation system is that if the water is contaminated, it will come in direct contact with the edible portion of the crop, possibly resulting in a contamination event. Research has shown that the use of drip irrigation minimizes microbial contamination in leafy green crops. This method minimizes the risk of crop contamination because the edible parts of the crop typically do not come in direct contact with the irrigation water. Foodborne illness outbreaks associated with fresh fruits and vegetables continues to be of significance among specialty crop producers in the United States. And you can minimize this risk within your own program by following a careful collection of food safety guidelines and recommendations.